are 19 million war veterans living in the United States today. 19 million men and women who've lived extraordinary lives. 19 million stories worth telling. Stories about big wars and small gestures.
My father-in-law said, I'm not giving you this silver dollar, I'm lending it to you because I want you to bring it back. So I carried that in my pocket throughout the war, and I brought it back. You want me to take it out of the case?
I want to zoom in.
It's a silver dollar from 1891.
Wow.
When my son was drafted in the Vietnam War, I gave him the silver dollar. And I told him he's got to bring it back. And he did.
Memories like this are worth preserving. So in 2000, Congress created the Veterans History Project to gather the stories and documents of veterans and those who supported them. These stories are told through oral histories, home movies, letters, pictures, and diaries. They are told by those who went to war and those who stayed behind. These are the Americans who witnessed history. These are the wars as seen through their eyes.
What was the date that you were called to basic?
17th of May, 1966.
So they just called you by name?
Right.
They said, we need you, Jerry.
Yep.
And then you received it in the mail.
Right.
And what did you think when you got that notice?
Well, you know, we're going to do our duty. What are you going to do? You know, everybody else was going. You know, you go, you get drafted, you go. Serve your duty and be done with it.
You weren't burning your draft card? Or
no.
walking the line?
No.
So where'd you do basic?
We left the Twin Cities by train on that day, and we went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Oh, did you?
And we spent 0 week there. Got a lot of shots, got our uniforms and all that kind of stuff, all our equipment. And then they put us on a bus and sent us to Fort Riley, Kansas. We formed up the 9th Infantry Division. When we got to Fort Riley, they had us all standing out there, and they brought this big general out there, and first thing he said is, you boys are going to Vietnam, and some of you ain't coming home. He was right. A lot of good men didn't come home.
Well, now, how long were you at Fort Riley?
We trained, we did basic there, AIT. We were there until actually the 6th of January. So we were a pretty close-knit group. We were all together, you know, and stayed that long.
Yes.
And then the 6th of January, they loaded us, all our equipment on a train and headed out to the West Coast.
Okay.
So we took a 2.5-day train ride to California.
What kind of a soldier were you?
I would say average. I mean, I didn't excel in a lot of stuff, but I was keeping up with the rest of them. There was a lot of them below me, a lot of them above me. I was kind of average.
And how'd you do on the rifle range?
Sharpshooter.
What date did you leave California?
It must have been about maybe the 10th. We left. Someone was around the 10th of January.
This is still January.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
I think it was around the 10th. On the USS John Pope.
What kind of ship was that? Was
Just
it
a troop carrier, 4,000 troops on it.
4,000?
Yeah. The chow line was a continuous line. You'd start breakfast, and before you got the breakfast was done, we started in line for dinner, you know, and they did exercises on there, and we cleaned weapons, and there wasn't nothing to do. I mean, the first 6 days I was just
bored.
Well, not really bored, I was sick. I was in the hospital 3 days.
Were you really?
Oh, yeah.
You were in sick bay, huh?
I was not good.
And how long was your cruise?
We spent 12 days then we stopped in Okinawa. And they turned 4,000 troops loose in Okinawa.
Tell me about that.
They told us to be back in 6 hours. They had them all back in 8. They had to go get some.
The MPs had to round
MPs
them
had
up.
around some of them.
How about you? Were
Yeah,
you?
no, I was back.
Were you?
The island's not that big.
Yeah.
You know, then they had a nice USO show there for us and
Oh, good.
stuff like that. You know, there's things to do.
Sure.
And that was kind of a relief, you know. And then we got back on the ship and we headed for Vietnam. And they, one day out of Okinawa, middle of the night, midnight, the guy ran up the stairs from the galley and jumped overboard.
Did you know the person?
No, I never knew him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But he was not going to go.
He wasn't going to Vietnam, and he didn't go.
Yeah.
We circled for a day and a half.
Never found him.
We never found him. And we wound up in Vung Tau.
Now, where is that? I don't.
That's down south, way down south of Saigon. And we were out in the bay, you know, they wouldn't bring the ship in. They told us to get ready, we were going to go into the shore and be ready and lock and load and all that kind of stuff. And they put us on these boats and they'd run them in there, and we got there and they dropped that. We were all ready to go. We didn't, scared, you know, didn't know what was looking forward to. We got there, they dropped the ramp, there was the 9th Infantry Band standing there playing for. Then they loaded us on deuce and a halves and took us to Bearcat, which is north of Saigon. And that was a 2-hour ride. And, you know, put us back to back, and we're watching, you know, we didn't know what, we had no idea what was going on.
Tell us about the weather when you landed.
Hot and muggy and stunk, and it just didn't.
Not a good feeling, was it?
No, hot, and, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was, but once we got to Bearcat, that wasn't really built up yet hardly as a base camp. They pointed out in the middle of the sand out there was a big pile laying on the ground. They said, there's your tent. You want a place to sleep, you got to put her up. The first couple of weeks or so, they got us just used to the terrain and stuff. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but our first casualty was gored by a water buffalo.
Oh, really?
We were walking along this tree line, and this old cow, come out and had the guy pinned on the ground. We had to shoot the buffalo. Otherwise, he'd have killed him.
What do you remember about your first combat, your first actual shooting, besides the water buffalo?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, the one that was probably the first part of June, or somewhere's in there, when we went to Kong Island. This place is full of booby traps and VC and everything, and we got off the boats and see, really, actually, I got to start a little back a little bit. They moved us from Bearcat down to Dong Tam after a while, which is further south, and then we started working with the boats, and they dropped us off on the boats and stuff.
Now that's kind of a delta area.
Yes, Mekong Delta.
A lot of water.
And the Rung Sat down by Bangtown in there. But anyway, they dropped us off on this island. We were supposed to patrol that. And we'd get about every 1,000 meters or 100 meters or so, 500 meters, we'd get shot at, but you didn't see nobody. Shoot and run, shoot and run, shoot and run. So one of these times while we were down, one guy stuck his head out behind a tree and they shot him, hit him in the neck, killed him. And the ironic story about that is, the night before, this guy said, I'm going to get hit tomorrow. Just like that.
Was he in your platoon?
In the platoon, yes. He was a squad leader in 1st Platoon.
And he had called
He had called
shot,
it,
so
yep.
to speak.
He said, I'm going to get tomorrow. I hit him in the neck and he died. He bled to death. And that was our first real casualty. Our next, the major battle we had was the 19th of June, 1967.
What was that?
We were patrolling, and about noon, we were picking up suspects and checking IDs and stuff like that. And about noon, we heard some shooting off to the right and ahead of us. And we got word, we were in B Company. We got word that A Company was in a mess. And there was a lot of shooting going on. And they said we were supposed to go up and help them get out of this mess. Well, we got up there, and we got pinned down right away. I laid in 6 inches of mud for 4 hours, pinned down. We found out that A Company got caught out in the open rice paddy between 250 calibers. And they had a lot of dead out there, a lot of wounded. And we just laid there. And they were bringing in airstrikes, they were bringing in artillery, and long about, well, this is before dark, they wanted one of our platoons to go up and help get some of them out of there, and they went over to this tree line, and while they were doing that, some artillery dropped short.
Friendly fire.
The guns got hot, and they were just, you know, dropped, and one of our platoon sergeants got hit. They lost his arm. His arm was all blown up. They just went like this and wrapped him up and sent him in. They didn't know if he was going to live or not. And a couple other guys got hit. My platoon sergeant got a big gash in his leg. We just laid there till dark. And then there was a ravine behind us. We finally got back into that waterway, and we were in waist deep or neck deck water. And they had 23 or 24 killed, something like that. The rest were wounded. There was 9 guys walked away from it. And they wanted, after it got dark, they wanted us to go, some of us to go out and help get some of these, you could hear them out there screaming. And my good buddy, the squad leader, says, I need some volunteers, you, and you, which is fine. I mean, it didn't matter, you just went.
Yeah.
So there was 4 of us that went out there. What we did, we took no rifles. We had 2 hand grenades in each pocket, so it's 4 hand grenades. We went out there with ponchos, and we made 4 trips out there and brought bodies or wounded, but we had no idea. You couldn't tell. It was solid mud. And while we were doing this, the artillery was shooting flares off. So there we stand right out in the middle of and we never got shot at. And we found out later that the reason was the VC were gone. We lost 5 helicopters that day. I seen one go down. There was a big red cross on it. Came in, picked up medevac, went up like this, boom, just like that. This is in the whole battalion. You know, there was more companies than us too there. But the statistics say we killed 256 BC, and there was over 50 guys killed, Americans killed.
Now, did you identify the unit you were up against?
They did, but I don't know what it was. It was a big. They did. It's in the it's on the website. You can figure out what it is, but I just don't know offhand.
Now, is this the 9th Infantry Division website? Is that the
Yes,
website?
yes, yeah. Or the Mobile Riverine Force will do it too.
To which?
The Mobile Riverine Force. We worked with the Navy.
Mobile River.
Yes.
Okay.
See, we lived on ships for a while too. After we got the Dongtam, they put us on ships, like the Benoit and the Culleton. These were troop flat-bottom ships, and well, they had air conditioning. Davy had better chow than we did. They would take us out on these, what do you call that things? Troop carriers. They hold about 30 men.
Assault carriers.
Yeah, ATCs,
Yeah.
armored troop carriers.
Right.
And they would drop us off, then they'd patrol the river, and we'd run 3 days, and they'd pick us up.
Now, they gave supporting fire.
Right, and they'd beach these things if we got hit, which they did on the 19th. You know, it saved a lot of lives. And we could only stay out 3 days. If you stayed out 5 sometimes, 3 days, more than 3 days, you get immersion foot, shunga rot. We went out with about half a company one time, because the rest couldn't walk hardly. So you go out for 3-4 days, come back, rest for 2 days, go back out. That's basically what we done. And when we were living on the ship. And they had a big barge alongside the ship where they had all our ammo and all our stuff. We cleaned their weapons and stuff on there. And they, when we get back from patrol, the Navy had a big time. They'd get the fire hoses out.
And hose
They'd
you
hold
down.
us down before they let us on the ship.